Love and loss. What is love and loss? Nostalgia is one emotion where when we talk about it, it's always about bittersweetness, about mourning, about loving, yearning, and holding on to things. What happens when you hold on to things for too long? Is it too stressful? Do you just let go? Or does it keep you and crystallize into who you are, your identity? Figuring this out, particularly within the Love and Loss Research Creation Hour here by the NOSTAGAIN Network, are a few artists from Concordia who explore the materialities and meanings of nostalgia. First and foremost, as we enter the fourth space, so sorry behind you. Gabriel, watch out. Nostalgia can be messy sometimes too. That's okay. As we enter the fourth space, we welcome you here to our vibrant green palette here, sort of the central ground, the epicenter of what it means to nurture with memory, right? The breeding ground. We cross here with our arch, which itself is a living proof of what it means to be nostalgic. These rose petals individually, by the way, are origami roses, which means that people start to write things, and as Annie helps them fold their memories together, it reveals a thing about nostalgia. Some memories are pretty on the outside, but to get towards the whole truth, you have to unfold it. And sometimes that looks kind of ugly, right? Just like when you unfurl out a piece of rose. So the wall itself serves as that living embodiment. Speaking of living embodiment, here itself we have an embodiment of a living room with Jen Mousson from Milieux Institute of the Textiles and Materiality Cluster. Jen, your work here is called Echoes of Play, yet in terms of what we see, it's very much fibers, right, and material. Can you maybe explain a little bit about what this project is and why you chose the title Echoes of Play? I'm just curious.
Oh my, oh my, oh my. This work is about, oh my gosh, so hard because, you know, I lost my dad this week. So it's about this relationship that we had playing. So for me in my head, it's like an echo of like something that we did together. But the Nintendo belonged to him and we were barely allowed to play on it. We watch him play. So I thought that by reproducing it and embroidering it on something that disappears, the fabric that disappears, and then putting it back together in that clunky way, it would echo that relationship, and the loss of his ability to even remember that he used to play, and even though he played for hours and hours. So it's kind of like, and putting it in a miniature way, I think it allows me to see it globally in a way. Right, so yeah.
And I see as well that you have these sorts of wires intentionally out here that's sort of not just a plug, but sort of into the memory void, right? That what powers this duck hunt recreation, amongst other titles, is basically the surrounding memories. What are these little 101 coins about, by the way? Just briefly tell us about that.
While reflecting on this, I was thinking about what is a life worth? Right, and in the video game, in the Mario, which I have a cartridge of embroidered there, if you gather 100 coins, you get an extra
1p up.
Yeah, play, you know. But in French we say une vie, so in English you get a life. So you get une vie de plus. So you can either get 100 of those embroidered, like I materialize them, or one of the little mushrooms over there.
Over there, 1p up right there. C'est la vie, hein? It's on a pizza. Thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate it. And for more information, thank you. For more information, we can visit your Instagram, perhaps. Yeah. What is it called?
I'll put more images and things.
Okay, we're gonna link it below. So thank you again, Jen. Here's a little love letter for thanks. We now move on to Owen Helms. Do you miss it? Owen is in the midst of a conversation. Owen, tell us a little bit about, Owen's part of TAG, Technoculture Arts and Games Research Center, where NOSTAGAIN was founded. And you've been with our event since the very beginning, actually. Tell us a little bit about sort of how games and nostalgia feature in your work, and specifically, what Do You Miss It embodies and represents?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, as Richie said, I've been attending NOSTAGAIN since the first little, wasn't even a symposium, it was like just a little conference. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, for me, all my work seemed to sort of revolve around like the exterior, the periphery of nostalgia. I touch a lot on like personal themes. Last year's game that I submitted for NOSTAGAIN was a game that focused on collective identity and isolation. This game is kind of the opposite. It focuses on interpersonal relationships and the sort of rose-colored glasses that one can apply to that. A lot of my works, it's funny, I don't start out with them trying to be personal, but they really do. And when you write something that's personal, it tends to bring out a lot of emotions, which in turn is tied to nostalgia quite a lot of the time. Or at least you can skew it that way when you're applying to a conference like NOSTAGAIN. Yeah, Do You Miss It takes place pretty much almost entirely on a bus ride. It's inspired a lot by my bus rides that I take between Ontario and Quebec back to see family. And almost all the characters within the game that you can converse with are inspired directly from people that I've met on the bus, which are generally pretty unique characters. And so yeah, you explore the game, explore the characters, learn more about the character that you are in the game, and then have a little surreal experience at the end of the day, which I will leave as a mystery for now.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Owen. Hopefully you don't miss this game. Yes. Where can you find it? Or your itch page, right?
Yeah. So this is up on itch right now. You can go to my website, which is omch.tech, TECH, and you can find all my games up on there.
Thank you so much, Owen. And on to our next stop. Thank you. Owen. Ding, 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 ding. We're just going to peruse through the zone. This was the aforementioned workshop led by Annie, which in itself has an extension of this wall over here. Yes, a nostalgic wall that actually brings people together, then divide them. Huh. Does that sound familiar? So Annie here will help us fold origami and using the materialities, but not just is it the medium of the paper that helps, but also your own hands, right? It's a dual process of how you realize nostalgia. I want to actually come over here first to Kamyar and Rebecca Cohn. Hey, Rebecca. They joined us last year, yes, at Time in a Bottle. And I just want to ask you very briefly to talk a little bit about what led you to work on Heart Written. And despite its kind of grainy, glitchy texture, what sort of solid understandings of nostalgia or reflections can it bring, just briefly?
For sure. That's a very big question. I think at its core, it's sort of like an exploration of my own relationship with my mother, and it's kind of a conversation between my soundscape and my sound kind of practice and her love for literature. So I just tried to compose something modular so that everyone can kind of maybe pinpoint at this relationship at the intersection of what it is. And it's heart written in the sense that it's very intimate and it's very raw, and it's there's no fancy details to it. As the box, as you can see, designed by Rebecca, to give the shout out. This box, as you can see, it's naked and it's raw and it's intimate, and it's just there to be kind of a vehicle of the conversation. And the soundscape itself is sort of a synthesized work of electronic music, and someone that has a pure passion for literature and just writing poems, and her love for nostalgia and the hopeless romantic that my mom is, and the love that I always gonna have for her. And maybe if you want to talk about the device a little bit.
Do you want to talk about the quick process of how it works?
Yeah, like I just wanted to do a little exploration for a little controller for Max and the visuals as well. So yeah, it was super fun to do. But yeah, like you said, it was like kind of open and you could see the insides of it. So yeah.
It's so naked and it's so functional, but yet so beautiful, right? And they always said, nostalgia can lead us to a haywire, isn't it? Yeah. Look at that! Where are you, my dear? So that's the poem itself. If viewers at home want to pause this and take a screenshot in both languages as well, do have a read. And where can they find your work, Rebecca and Kamyar?
Our personal websites or Instagram, they can reach out, and we're hoping to put this online so people can play with it as well. Yeah, do reach out if ever.
We'll put their links in the bio below. Thank you so much again. This is a little love letter for both of you. Thank you so much. Do share it, but don't tear it in half, all right? Thank you so much. We now move on to Malta Leander. Malta, hello. Hi. I want to talk about, wow, goodness me, your research. Maybe briefly tell us about how it came about, its origin story, and why it is that you feel that perhaps sense can help us see the past and reach it much better than, let's say, visuals or other forms, perhaps.
Yes, well, the project that you see here today is called Sense and Sonics of the Ocean, and it is a collaboration between myself as a sound artist and with Yoshan, a perfumer, and Julia Kubanek, who is a marine scientist and chemist. And we met at Sapelo Island, which is an island outside of the coast of Georgia in the US, during an Ocean Memory Project conference. And Ocean Memory Project is an organization that is based in the US where artists and scientists meet to talk about ocean ecology, but even more so ocean memory, with the big question, if ocean has a memory, what form does it take? So, in conversation between artists and scientists, there have been a multitude of projects reflecting on this big question, and in that context is where this collaboration happened. In terms of answering your second question, I mean, what you have today here is both soundscapes and 3 different scents. Here you have marsh, there's also forest and coast, which are all based off of the memory of different ecologies of Sapelo Island that Yoshan, the perfume artist, synthesized from memory based off of her experience of what this island smelled like of these different ecologies. So the collaboration then happened through Julia Kubanek working at Georgia Tech as a scientist, professor and marine scientist, being able to extract this visual spectra that's basically a representation through a spectroscopic analysis. So this is showing the atomic presence in the different molecules of the ingredients in the bottle. So if you're still following me here, the memory is then interpreted into sense, where we then extract these visual spectra, which have then become the building blocks of the soundscapes. So in order to resume that just a little bit shorter and quicker, is that what you hear in the headphones is basically made of the building blocks of what's in the bottles. So in this installation, you sit down and you smell the different scents and you listen to the soundscapes at the same time, and you reflect upon the memory and perhaps the correlation that can be evoked by sitting down and experiencing this multisensory installation.
Thank you so much. They always said nostalgia stinks, but in this case, it stinks because there's so many components to it. Again, I thank you and Yosh and Julia for just really compacting and really exploring what that means to smell the past, the smell of home. Again, we want to give you thanks as well to Yoshan as well and Julia Knek. Thank you for coming to NOSTAGAIN. And to learn more about your work, where can we find you, Malta?
Well, I mean, I would want to give a big nod to Ocean Memory Project. If this overlap between artists and scientists and talking about ocean memory, then check out Ocean Memory Project's website. There's a lot of interesting projects. So I would start there, and then you can find more of my work from there as well. Thank you.
It will flow. Thank you very much, Malta. For folks at home, this is mine. Take a screenshot. Just take a screenshot at home. This is Club Penguin's band message. This is a sort of a textbook, marking, grading paper. This is like a funeral paper. This is a open house call. And finally, that's a sort of a child's preschool message. And all of these actually express adult messages of longing. Hey, we lost touch. I'm sorry for a loss. Sorry you got rejected from your job. Sorry you have 6 months to live because of cancer. And what that means when we prematurely encapsulate our nostalgic messages with things that may or may not fit. So explore that as you go on as well. Here's a screenshot. Do reach out if you want to learn more. Now I reach out to Van. Van, hi. I'll let you do the explaining, I think. Can you just briefly let us know what one-pump belts are, the bead, the process of that, and the spectrogram as well? Thank you.
So wampum belts are pre-colonization, were traditionally used as lawmaking pieces. So when we look at the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, for example, we see a lot of symbolism within the shapes that are used. For example, a square would be representative of a community. So as colonization progressed and as methods for displacement and assimilation, wampum belts were then taken as pieces of collector's items, a lot by bankers specifically, and the traditional pieces of wampum, which is wampum shells, began to be used as currency. So this work is kind of a modern take on treaty making and wampum belt making. So rather than using traditional symbols, I actually take visualizations of sound and language through the act of spectrogram making. So you basically do a little recording, and within the field of linguistics, you can be trained to parse out what the word is actually saying, given the correct context. So in this case, I took a spectrogram reading of both my parents, my mother's, saying "I love you," so in their first languages. So my mom is Anishinaabe, so it's Kisagin, and then my dad is French, so Je t'aime, and basically turned that spectrogram into a weaving pattern, which I then created a treaty of love between me and my parents. So my parents were the ones who provided the design, and then my process of putting the wampum belt onto the loom. So it's a looming process. Very simple compared to a bit more of a simpler design compared to some more of the textile looms that we see a lot. And yeah, so kind of have to go through bead by bead down the wampum line, and I used contemporary wampum beads, which are glass beads, as well as fishing line, which is another more contemporary material that a lot of weavers and indigenous beaders use. So kind of blending traditional materials and contemporary materials together to create a contemporary wampum belt.
Thank you so much, Van. And to learn more about your work, do you have an Instagram you can shout out to?
You can just check out my Instagram at vanny.jpg, like the files.
That's Vanny with 2 N's? Yeah, Vanny with 2 N's. Thank you so much, Van. Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We now move on to Yuki. Hey, Yuki, how are you?
Richie.
Very good, thank you. It's a little weird, isn't it? Just take us through this kind of interesting apparel collection and maybe explain to us how this came about, perhaps.
Sure. Thank you. It might be a little strange, but I'm a print major. So I consider this like my digital print practice. And also I consider the clothing pieces of ready-made art items, sort of, that transition in and out of being in my closet and in the art world. I grew up thrifting with my brothers, and it's a common pastime in Scarborough, where I'm from. And for a lot of low-income households, it's really important. And also just hand-me-downs and clothing items that have a life before you. So I'm using these emotionally charged clothing items as sort of an invitation for the viewer to interact with it and interact with a sense of intimacy and maybe vulnerability. So each of the clothing items have a tag on them and talk about sort of the emotional cost of each item for me. Like this was my dad's old jacket. I have items from friends. This was my mom's tank top that she brought over from Hong Kong. There's one in the hat, things like that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Yuki. You definitely can wear your heart on your sleeve, I suppose. Where can we find more about your work, Yuki?
Yeah, my Instagram is my name, Yuki Tam, and then an underscore. And I also have a website. It's KKArtCO. Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yuki. Let's keep going. We're now going to talk to Marie. Hey, Marie. Marie, 3 oil canvases about displacement and nostalgia, Armenian and the genocide, yes? Take us briefly, perhaps, through the process of how you communicated this nostalgia through oil painting, and perhaps maybe talk about maybe this debut painting itself, and we'll peruse the story behind it.
Okay. So my work is really all about taking ephemeral feelings of nostalgia and of hope and making them more physical. So my painting, particularly this one, is based on old family photographs. My family were refugees 3 generations, so in light of that, we didn't have a lot of physical memorabilia, so we didn't have a lot of stuff. We had a few little photos, and the photos that we have were very, very precious to us. And for me, taking that photo, which is emotionally precious for us, and making it into an oil painting, which inherently makes it precious for more people, because we look at oil paintings and we think, wow, they're so special. And I also think that it also helps me put my own spin on things and make it more magical, and it actually reflects how I feel about memory and at my family. So if you look at this one in particular, this was based on a photo that I had. I inherited my grandmother's album when she passed away, and the photo itself is this part. This is my grandfather, and he was a barber in Alexandria, Egypt. He was an Armenian genocide survivor who was orphaned, and he grew up in Greece in an orphanage. At 12 years old, they would place the orphans wherever in the world that there was jobs. So he ended up in Alexandria, Egypt, where he started out as a sweeper in a barber shop. Then he worked his way up, and he has his own barber shop. And we still have photos of his sign that said Garo. Garo was his name. And I think at one point, because in those days they were very poor, and photographs were very precious, you would have to hire someone to come in and take a photo. I think this was a series that he had someone professionally come in and take a photo. So I take the photo and I try to make it more magical. I have these ideas of post-memory, of looking back at something and reinterpreting it, and focusing on my grandfather and also the photographer. I found that very interesting. And I like to add myself in here too, so I expand it and I kind of put a ghostly presence of a little girl looking in on her grandfather and just wondering about him. Yeah. Too much time? Not enough time? Good? You have to move on. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Marie. We'll link where you can find Marie in the description as well. Is memory really a color? I think it's an oil painting, isn't it? Marie, thank you so much. Again, seriously, thank you so much. We'll just do a peruse here, so Isa can also get the other 2 oil canvases as we move on to Kelly Day. Ready, Kelly? So there we go. Just a little scan. Kelly Day, you joined us last year, Time in a Bottle, talking about Fairy Tale, A True Story, reflecting each and every page of this huge medieval fairy tale book about the linings of your stomach, because that's, unfortunately, with a nostalgic memory, it's always, it's not a good memory, is it? Stress. This year, you've taken us the other way round, comfort, and it's titled Grandma Tuck Me In. Can you tell me a little bit about kind of where grandma comes in here, why you chose to express nostalgia in this way, and perhaps why is it a bed? Just briefly.
Sure. So interestingly, in the last year, I feel like I've been mourning the loss of my grandmother who died in 2009. Is that right? Yeah, 2009. It's a long time ago. I feel like it really caught up with me just in the last year. And I think about her nonstop. And I think partly that's due to the kind of realizing that how do I say this? Like, I lost my father a year ago. And not only did I lose him, but I reconciled with the fact that I like kind of lived in a false reality. Like my structure around me was very false. And you know, when you're taught like one family dynamic, you assume that that's normal. And I had a lot of unpacking that everything was very not normal. So I started to, in my healing process, revisit, you know, who was there that really protected me. And it was my grandma. My grandma was everything to me. And, you know, she did everything for me. And she was my protector. And I think back, like as a little kid, and she lived with us, and she was very interested in what I cared about, little things. And she would make things with her hands to show me that she noticed me. She saw me, she heard me. And if I had an interest in, my example I use is like Alf. Like I had a talking Alf doll. Like she like made a shirt for talking Alf. Like she would make things. And I've always gravitated to like a fiber's arts, and I feel my grandma in my hands when I'm creating with material or thread, and it's very comforting to me when I use this medium. It's my connection to her. So I was thinking a lot about the doll clothes that she would like hand crochet me, and I have some of them framed at home, but you know, some of this is like old doll clothes that I passed on to my daughter, and vintage doll clothes that a friend gave me. And it reminds me of my childhood with my grandma and her taking an interest in my interests. And we would take the bus together to the mall, and she'd buy me like Barbie clothes. And like we'd make a whole day of it. So it's that kind of quality time that when I look back in my childhood, like how meaningful that was. So I was thinking about this piece, and I wanted to kind of like over time contribute to it when I felt like I needed a hug from my grandma. And times have been pretty stressful like lately. And so I've completed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I guess we can sleep with our eyes closed with Kelly's nostalgia. Thank you again so much for your work. Where can we find you just briefly? Is there Kelly Day Arts? Or?
Yeah, kellydayarts.com, or I guess Instagram, but
we'll link it below. I know. Kelly, thank you so much.
Oh my gosh,
Love letter. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. All right, we move on to our final research creation booth with Sid. Sid Hassani. Hey, how are you? Sid, hello. I know we all hug, but let's do a handshake this time. Sid, V62.4, classification of homesickness. Whew, that's not good, is it? Tell us how you humanized that process. Take us through kind of where that home in the sickness came in, and perhaps a little bit about your position as a theater practitioner, just however long you want.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to start with how we, as a collective, Cyber Shakespeare, came to the idea of V62.4. So first and foremost, our idea was to think about how we can remove the performer or creator from the creative work, or how we are going to perform a piece without the creator being present. So this is the ultimate goal of Cyber Shakespeare, to think about how we can create a safe environment for spectators and also the creators of the work. And in this piece, we were working on nostalgia. So basically, there's a QR code here. If you sign up as a host, you will receive one of these packages that has all the essential material that you need to perform the piece, which I can show you. A bottle of Shiraz wine, which you may need, Gilani rice, and saffron, and also a bunch of QR codes and instructions that you may need to perform the piece. So if you're a host, you will receive one of these packages that can set you up for the performance. And if you have signed up as a guest, you will be connected to one of the hosts so you can enjoy the piece. So basically, I had this idea of why I feel nostalgic about places that I didn't like back in the time. So it got me to thinking that maybe it's the idea or a prospect of the place that I feel nostalgic for, and it's not the actual place that I missed. So we started thinking about how we can tell other people that maybe nostalgia is a made-up term for people who are suffering from other situations, and they call it nostalgia, like the thing that happened with the Swiss mercenaries that were away from a home. Yeah, that's the idea behind this piece, and yeah, thank you.
You certainly made a disease that used to house others, criminals, and soldiers who failed to be miserable, a home for all of us. Sid, seriously, thank you so much. Please, again, do take a screenshot if you want to organize or be involved. Oh, okay. This one is for okay, sample of the performance here. And if you want to organize, right here by this artist card, just take a screenshot, or alternatively, go to your website.
Yeah, exactly. HamidRezaHosseini.com.
Okay, I'm going to link that in. Sid, thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Thank you, seriously. Fantastic. Thank you. We now end our research creation booth showcase as I take you back to the middle of the garden where we started this morning. Love and loss, what does that mean? We now go over to our live YouTube panel, our last one on touch, taste, and entanglements before we wrap up today. If you want to learn more and be a part of NOSTAGAIN, this is more than for students and artists as well, go to @NOSTAGAIN, like Lost Again with an N, or go to nostagain.ca/the network. Thank you so much.